Hi, everyone. Thank you for having us. We're thrilled to be part of this week's activities. I'm Meha Aluwalia, Project Manager of the Aspen Tech Policy Hub, and I'm joined by Mai Sisla, our Deputy Director. The Hub is part of the Aspen Institute's program for technology policy, and our team specifically focuses on training STEM experts to have policy impact. Last year, one of our main projects focused on driving action on diversity, equity, and inclusion in the cybersecurity field, which is what we're here to talk to you about today. I'll start by quickly providing some background on the project before we dig into what we found. Next slide, please. So as this group would know well, the cybersecurity field remains remarkably homogeneous, and there are few model initiatives that have demonstrated real progress towards building diverse and inclusive teams. Slide, please. As this graph shows, it's estimated that only 4% of the cybersecurity workforce self-identifies as Hispanic, while Hispanic people comprise 19% of the overall population. Similarly, only 9% of cyber workers identify as Black, despite making up 13% of the overall population. Similarly, only 24% of cybersecurity practitioners identify as women, despite, of course, being over half of the overall population. Slide. So seeing this problem, we did a quick gap analysis, and we determined that although there have been lots of conversations about improving diversity in the field, those conversations have typically shared a couple of common pitfalls in that they often include participants of similar backgrounds and positions. They haven't resulted in clear metrics to track progress and success, and they haven't had the right support from leadership to make real progress. So last year, with support from the Hewlett Foundation, we set out to facilitate a different kind of conversation. Please. We convened a group of 60 cybersecurity experts that truly represented the diversity of the field. They spanned different stages of their careers, backgrounds, and skill sets, and represented everything from academia to journalism to big tech and government. Over the course of 2 roundtables, we asked these experts to come up with concrete recommendations for better supporting underrepresented talent in the cybersecurity field, and we really pushed them to be specific in the action items and metrics for success they provided. Slide, please. The experts were divided into groups based on 5 subtopics: education, recruitment and hiring, retention, mentorship, and shifting the narrative. Slide. And we asked them to split their recommendations into 2 types. The first was actions that single actors, think companies, individual executives, nonprofits, can take right now with the resources they already have. And the second was actions that would be extremely beneficial for the field, but would require additional support, such as funding and staff time to get off the ground. And for the sake of time, we'll focus today on the second set of recommendations, which is actions that would be hugely meaningful and should be priorities for investment. But of course, we encourage you to browse the full report for actions that individuals and organizations such as yourself can take right now. Slide, please. We'll get started with education. Slide. So our education subgroup recognized that a big barrier to entry in the cybersecurity field is that most jobs require expensive certifications that are hard to obtain. With more time and support, the field should invest in assessing whether certifications are necessary at all, and also investigate how diverse participants fare in apprenticeship programs that could be alternative pathways we should support. The goal is that those assessments would help determine whether existing job requirements are truly helpful or just exclusionary, and should be removed in favor of other hands-on training. Slide, please. The Department of Defense and the NSA recently launched the Cybersecurity Education Diversity Initiative, or CEDI, which is a great example of such a pathway into cybersecurity. The CEDI program matches students at minority-serving institutions and historically Black colleges and universities with paid internships at private sector security companies. And this can be a great model for future programs to expand access points into the field. Slide. Next, we'll turn to recruitment and hiring. Slide, please. So on the recruitment side, the group emphasized that no matter how qualified a candidate may be, they cannot have equal access to cybersecurity positions if the hiring process is biased against them. The group had a lot of suggestions that individual employers can take now to reassess their processes, so please do check out the report to explore that for yourself. But with more resources, the cybersecurity field should prioritize creating 2 new common resources for all employers. The first is a group of pro bono experts to help employers rewrite job descriptions without jargon. By steering away from jargon and focusing more on the core competencies of these roles, more candidates would be able to imagine themselves filling those jobs. The second is that the field should also consider whether current criminal background check processes are appropriate, fair, and equitable, or just discriminate against candidates of diverse backgrounds. Slide, please. On the dejargoning side, there's already one extremely valuable resource in the ecosystem to help with this: the National Initiative for Cybersecurity Education Cybersecurity Workforce Framework, which we're sure many of you are already familiar with. The NICE framework does a great job at clarifying common cybersecurity roles and the specific knowledge, skills, and abilities that would be required to perform them. Slide, please. So for a cyber defense analyst role, for example, the framework offers a list of abilities and specific technical knowledge an employer might want to include in their job description for the role. If the cybersecurity field were to create a pro bono team, as our experts suggest, this repository would be a great starting point for that effort. And now I'll turn it over to my colleague, Mai, to take you through the remaining categories. Over to you, Mai.
Thank you so much, Meha. Another topic that our roundtable participants focused on is retaining diverse talent. Cyber employers have struggled to retain racial and ethnic minority workers at the same rate as other employees. In our retention conversation, roundtable participants discussed about how DEI initiatives within organizations need to have buy-in from C-suite executives, but currently there's no real incentive for C-suite execs to actually make progress on these promises. Because of this, our group recommended establishing some sort of mechanism to hold executives publicly accountable for their commitments. This would help make progress on a variety of goals, including improving retention rates. A task force, for example, might present cybersecurity executives with a list of DEI goals and actions to accomplish these goals with well-defined success metrics, such as improving retention rates of diverse employees. A task force might also collect pledges from executives who understand that they will be assessed against these metrics. This task force might also maintain a website that is accessible to the public where executive progress is tracked against these success metrics. You could see a color coding system, for example, where organizations are highlighted in red, yellow, or green, depending on whether they are meeting those goals. An example of something similar is the Tech Equity Accountability Mechanism, or TEAM, an initiative currently being developed by our colleagues at Aspen Digital. With dozens of signatories already, including Apple, Google, Snap, and Netflix, TEAM will be an independent group dedicated to establish industry standards for DEI reporting and providing transparent reports of companies' performance against these standards. TEAM will also deliver experiments to drive innovation in DEI and provide referrals and connections to organizations that support company-wide DEI changes. Funding has already been secured for this initiative, and the group is actively hiring its staff. Though TEAM is currently scoped for the tech industry, it could be a model for a similar accountability force for the cybersecurity field. Moving on to mentorship, research has shown that engaged mentors are highly valuable resources for diverse professionals. For example, research from the National Academy of Sciences show that effective mentoring relationships in STEM fields have an overall positive effect on academic achievement, retention, and degree attainment, as well as on career success and satisfaction. Many organizations have already built mentorship programs, and there are a lot of lessons learned that we can share. As I mentioned, there's a lot that can be learned from organizations that have already started mentorship programs. To prevent cybersecurity professionals from designing their mentorship programs from scratch, we recommend that a coalition of experts from across industry, academia, nonprofits, and government create a shared set of mentorship resources and identify best practices. The coalition might start by surveying diverse professionals and students and probe where they could benefit from added support. Based on these results, the coalition could develop professional development resources. This coalition could also facilitate collaborations among organizations by creating a network of professionals. For example, a student counselor who is trying to advise a student on cybersecurity careers might draw on the network to find a cybersecurity professional that the student can shadow. In that vein, numerous cybersecurity and tech companies have started mentorship programs where underrepresented staff are paired with senior leadership from similar backgrounds. Girl Security, an organization that works with high school girls, college to career, to improve diversity in the national security space, is a wonderful example of this. One of their core components is a phased mentorship model, connecting girls with a student or professional. As part of their mentorship model, they have trainings for mentors and other resources. Other organizations, like Women in Cybersecurity, have mentoring programs that have assisted hundreds of women in their cybersecurity careers. Other organizations could learn from the wonderful work that Girl Security and Women in Cybersecurity are doing. Last, improving DEI in cybersecurity will require a more fulsome shift in the narrative. Unlike careers in law and medicine that are already well-defined, careers in cybersecurity can be hard to conceptualize. It can also be difficult for diverse candidates to see themselves in these jobs, since the field remains overwhelmingly white. To create a more inclusive cybersecurity workforce, the field must collaborate and redefine the narrative around cybersecurity work and professionals. Our roundtable participants suggested creating a public multi-platform campaign that would specifically target younger professionals. This campaign, which could be targeted at middle and high school students, would show students that the cybersecurity field welcomes practitioners who come from diverse backgrounds and are proud of what they do. One of our close partners on this initiative, Share the Mic in Cyber, does a great job at this. You may have already seen their work on social media. The campaign pairs Black cybersecurity professionals with prominent allies in the field. Allies lend their social media accounts for the day to elevate their Black practitioner partner voices and stories. Our roundtable participants noted that a campaign like this, targeted at younger students and made in partnership with many different organizations, could additionally help shift the narrative. Meha and I have just skimmed the surface of larger initiatives that can be created to make cybersecurity a more diverse industry. In addition to the recommendations we just discussed, which require additional investment, our report discusses recommendations that organizations can take now to make some of these goals a reality. If you'd like to reach us, please email Aspen Tech Policy Hub at aspeninstitute.org. Thanks again for having us and for all your commitments to this important work.